Hey guys, I'm
Hi,
Sean.
and I'm Jim. Welcome
And
to Cross Country Food Wars.
absolutely. And this week Jim picked cube steaks. He wanted us to do cube
Yeah.
steaks.
And by
So
the way, just to get this out of the way right up front, hit the like button, hit subscribe if it's something you
absolutely.
really like, and you're doing Sean a big favor on his retirement fund.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, definitely. If you want to see more of this, subscribe. Anyways, first up this week is Jim. Looks like from the title here, he's doing a Salisbury steak. So let's go ahead
Yeah,
and
something I don't normally do. Actually, I haven't done it. I also can't think of the last time I actually made a Salisbury steak. Normally, I just reach for frozen TV dinners. Now, where a lot of people like me grew up on them, and even people in your generation, Sean, is just reach for a frozen TV dinner because it was handy.
yeah, I could see that.
Actually, back in my day, it was actually considered a treat because they weren't the cheapest meal in town; they were just the fastest.
I was never into Salisbury steak.
I
Anyways,
wasn't either.
let's get this going here. All right, so I see you're using your
Yeah,
deep dish there.
yeah, right. That's a 12-inch cast iron. My dredge was really simple. About a little over a cup of flour, a bit of Montreal steak seasoning, some herb de Provence. Ever since I saw it used once for a pot roast, herb de Provence has been my go-to seasoning on beef because it combines so many other different herbs. That's what I'd be putting in anyway. This is a dry dredge. I'm not dipping in egg or buttermilk or anything.
Okay.
My cube steak had been dry brined overnight in the fridge.
Okay.
And that's where Salisbury steak and Swiss steak both differ from chicken fried steak. You use a dry dredge.
Yeah.
Now my pans come up to temp pretty much, adding some canola oil. I could have let it come up a bit more.
Yeah.
But from here, it's just, I'm not trying to cook these steaks through. I'm just going to put them in there long enough to brown. So there's like 2 minutes per side.
Okay.
I probably could have skipped through this anyway. Just to save everyone a bunch of time, I'm going to show the first two going in, and then I'm going to show the last two coming out. Now, one thing about this.
Yeah, I would have time lapsed this.
Yeah, I didn't even time lapse. I just jump cut. But I'm going for minimal dirty pots and pans on this one. So if you notice, unlike a chicken fried steak, I don't even set it to a wire wrap to give it time for anything to set. You don't need to. Now, the trick to know when to flip a cube steak, if you notice, the top of that was starting to bleed through. That's when it's time to flip.
Mm.
And when they're done, you can see off in the upper right-hand corner where I set them onto the lid. Now,
I'm assuming that pan wasn't washed out. You're going ahead and using that.
Right.
Same. Okay.
After that, I just put in a container, an 8-ounce package of button mushrooms sliced, and cooking them down. Gonna add some salt to them, of course.
No other seasonings, salt there.
Yeah, that's all I had to have there. Now I'm making room to throw some onions in. Same thing, just add some salt to help them cook down. And I'm going to let them cook long enough to take on a fair amount of color. Remember, I'm looking for a brown gravy in this.
Why the mushrooms before the onions?
Because I find they take longer to cook down to where I want them to be. They cook down to about half their original size.
I do not find the same thing when I'm cooking. That's why I asked. I usually find that onions take 2 or 3 times longer to cook than mushrooms.
Not in my experience. Well, to get them the way that my wife likes them, somewhat crispy and brown, the mushrooms actually take longer to get them right.
Okay.
Now, as you can see, that everything's starting to take on some color. Now I've been scraping off the bottom as I go along the way. I don't want things to actually burn to it. I mean, it's going to be deglazed anyway here with this next step, and of course some garlic.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably about at least 3 cloves worth of minced garlic. Like you, I have no problem using garlic out of a jar.
Yeah, I mean, minced garlic is minced garlic.
It works.
There's very little difference between fresh minced garlic and a jar of minced garlic. They're just the difference is almost never worth the extra effort.
Now here
almost never.
Now here was a mistake, or rather, not a mistake, but a surprise. I've made onion gravy before, brown onion gravy, and I made a roux and I can make a roux with the onions in the pan, but I haven't done it before using the mushrooms and onion at the same time. And so that wasn't quite getting a roux the way I wanted it to. So I pulled an olive a bit later.
Not enough fat left in the pan. The mushrooms absorbed it.
Right. Yeah, there wasn't quite enough fat. I mean, it started to come up, but it wasn't what I wanted. So rather than add more oil, I pulled a trick that I did with that I do with pot roast. That works every time. Now here's beef broth going in. This is going to be about a cup to a cup and a quarter when I get through adding it all. I know it's going to be a bit thick, but that's okay. I can always thin it out later. I'd much rather thin gravy out than thicken it.
Yeah. Right now it looks very thin to me, so.
Well, it won't.
Obviously, it's going to cook through, and as the flour cooks, it's going to start to thicken, of course.
Yeah.
But
so just get that mixed in, and you'll see where I'm going to take some more flour and just sprinkle that on top. That's what I do with a pot roast. I'm still adding a bit more broth because I can see already that would be way too thick.
I will admit I don't like the idea of adding more raw flour at this point at all. Don't like it.
It's not a problem because this is going to braise for an hour and a half.
Oh, you're going to braise it? Okay.
Yeah. So this is what I do for a pot roast. I normally sift on enough flour that I know is going to thicken up the gravy.
Okay.
For a pot roast, I wouldn't bother stirring it in. I just leave it there and just nestle in the meat, cover it, and that goes for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm. There's not enough liquid here to braise, though.
Surprisingly enough, there is. There actually is. Don't forget, there is going to be some liquid that comes from the meat. But actually, you might be right, and I'll tell you later. And why did we freeze? There's some more, adding a bit more Montreal steak seasoning. I use that instead of pepper a lot of times. Now, I also have to cut back the salt when I use that because one thing I learned the hard way, always add that first, then taste for salt because it contains a lot of sodium. And now the meat goes back in, gets nestled in, and eventually it does get covered up and put down in the oven at 300 degrees. Now, when
are you going to cover it?
As soon as I finish this.
Okay.
Before it goes in the oven. Now, I found a lot of conflicting information on this. Like I said, I had to actually look this up since I don't normally do a Salisbury steak. I normally make a chicken fried steak, which is a different breed of cat entirely. But I found some people say 250 or even 225 for 45 minutes to an hour.
I still maintain there should have been more liquid in there.
Because
actually, it should be the steak should be partially covered.
Well, when it comes
before it goes in,
it should have come up halfway up on the steaks.
I said partially covered, partially covered.
And actually, right now while that's cooking, I went ahead and made up some mashed potatoes. Now I know you probably use a masher. I'm lazy. A hand mixer does a great job, and I'm showing this.
You think I used a masher? No.
Oh, you just
No.
take it straight from a box, huh?
I used a stick blender.
Oh my God.
I used a stick blender.
Anyway, instead of milk, I use sour cream, and I wound up using what was left in that container. And we also like ours a bit stiff, as you'll see. I could have added some butter to it, but
See, I actually
these weren't perfect. They were good enough.
I just simmer my.
And there's
my
some
mashed
cheese, some finely grated cheese going in. So
I just simmer my mashed potatoes right with the milk that I'm going to use, and then when the potatoes get tender, I take the stick blender to it and I do it right in the same pan.
Okay, whereas I never use milk in mine, and a stick blender. Yeah, okay, I can see that. For me, it's a hand mixer.
Well, stick blender is going to get it smoother than a hand mixer.
Right. Well, we tend to like ours a bit stiff. That's why I wouldn't use a blender.
Well, no, I meant when I said stiff, I meant lacking chunks. When I said smooth, not density.
Yeah,
but
okay.
smoother.
This is now this is after an hour and a half in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
And as you see, the gravy is a bit thick.
Yeah, it's actually, I would say it's about right now.
It was a little bit too thick, so I added a touch more broth to it, which I knew I could do.
Right.
I said it's a lot easier to thin a gravy than it is to thicken it. If I had to thicken that up, I would have had to reach for the cornstarch.
Yeah, looking at it, I don't think that it's too thick. I just don't think there's enough of it. You know what I mean? To dress your potatoes and everything.
Well, there was, and once again, I'm cooking knowing how much gravy Val likes, how much Randy likes, how much I'm going to use.
True. We're a heavy gravy household here.
Yeah, so I tend to use more, but I'm not big on mushrooms, as you know. There's actually far more mushrooms in here than what I like.
Yeah, well, you just have no mushrooms.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
Now, a straight onion gravy, but I am proud of that nice brown gravy, which is exactly the type of gravy you want for Salisbury steak. It's heavy on onions.
Yeah, and I mean, incidentally enough, it's the same kind of gravy you'd want for a country fried steak, just about. It's about right.
No.
I mean, minus your milk. You'd want milk in it.
Yeah, you don't want brown at all. Ideally, you want close to white. And there's the fork test. That's the final product. And thanks to Chef Mike, we had green beans.
Chef Mike. God damn it.
Hey, come on. Why not?
Chef Mike.
I'm sorry. You take one of those packets, pop it up in the microwave for 5 minutes, you got your veggie.
All right, let's get into my video.
So what do you think? Was that tasty or not? I mean,
it looked good. I would have made that. You had enough gravy. You had the same amount of gravy for 4 people that I would have made for 2.
Yeah, and I will say that's your right.
Other than that,
now one thing about that, I think I should have braised it more like 225 or 250 for like 2 to 2.5 hours, because the steak itself, while it's tender, it's fork tender.
Mm-hmm.
It cut easily. It felt a little bit dry in the mouth. Which surprised me.
I would have braised longer then, but it is what it is. I would have had those
just
steaks.
Being honest.
Yeah, I would have had those steaks about 3/4 covered in gravy instead of half. That's really the only change I would have made, honestly. It's just I would have cooked them for probably longer, but I would have had more liquid in general.
Yeah, but of course the big takeaway on it, I did that all in one pan.
Yeah.
So cleanup was a breeze.
Which is totally irrelevant to me, but I don't care how many pans I use to cook something. I'm just going to cook it right. And damn the mess. I mean, because I'm going to clean up the mess anyways. I wash the dishes because my girlfriend works a lot of hours right now, and she works on her feet. So I take care of the dishes as well now. I used to have a personal dishwasher, but now I do both.
Well, I
because
don't have
I
to
I
clean
sit on
up
my
necessarily.
right. Well, because I sit on my ass for work, and she works on her feet, so I do both now. But anyways, I'm
If
gonna get
Randy's
this running.
responsibility due to, excuse me, no, it's Randy's responsibility due to dishes, so I try to be considerate.
Cross Country Food Wars, and today we are working on some cube steak. Not sure what Jim is doing exactly, but today I am going to be doing a chicken fried steak. So I've already started chopping up my potatoes here. I'm just gonna get them cubed up. That's a massive potatoes.
Yes, those
gonna
would
speed
be
up the cooking
great
process.
twice baked
You can
potatoes.
skip this part. You have plenty of time. We're just gonna get these cubed up and put in here. Down.
That's almost a sin to use those for mashed potatoes.
It's easy to find them here that are that big that they're not a problem.
I bought a 5-pound bag of potatoes, and the average size is like 5,000 or 6,000 each.
Yeah. The important thing is, see, now we're gonna get our milk added in, because I just boil them in the milk in the first place.
Interesting.
And we're just gonna let these cook down until they're tender. Then we'll come through with our immersion blender and
now you make
puree
yours
them
the way I
down.
would like to
Then we're
make
just
mine.
gonna keep
Skin
cooking
on.
and adding milk until they're the consistency that we want.
I have to
Alright,
make
guys,
mine
so
skin
our
off
potatoes
because
have been boiling
John
for a
doesn't
little
like
while.
skins.
And everything that's good for you about a potato is in the skin.
I agree.
Get them all blended up.
100%.
Add some butter. A little bit more salt. And our potatoes.
That seems like a lot of milk for that.
The potatoes are first.
You'll
in
see
this
how
situation
it really isn't.
Because, well, potatoes
Because,
take by far
it's
the
gonna be
longest to cook
pretty
of the whole
milky,
meal.
looks like.
Pretty
It
what?
could be potato soup almost.
I leave the skin on my potatoes because pretty much everything that's good for you about a potato is in the skin.
You already said that.
Yeah,
You
no.
can see that is getting nice and creamy.
I'd say
See,
that's almost
it's
potato
thickening up,
soup.
though?
Yeah.
Thickening up.
Okay, we'll see at the end.
That is nice and cooked through.
That's a
Nice
mashed
and
potato.
smooth, nice and silky.
Yeah, it's definitely a matter of taste. That's way too loose
All
for
right, now we're just
what
gonna
I
get
like.
our butter.
It's
in
still
there.
on the heat.
Just gotta get our butter in there, and we'll be all good. All right, so now that we've got our
So
potato,
I'm cooking the potatoes first. The potatoes are going to be on a low simmer the rest of the time while I cook everything else.
Yeah,
So they're going
to.
to constantly be thickening the whole time I'm cooking the rest of the meal.
Okay, because I expected you to be cooking your steaks during the time that the potatoes were cooking.
Oh, I am. No. I'm doing it afterwards.
is nice and mashed. We're just gonna
Do a
turn
knob of butter in
a big
there.
chunk of butter here,
Right.
and we're just gonna let that fold in. And that's gonna.
And you can see it's already
Make our
thicker
potatoes
than it
nice
was
and
when I
buttery.
turned the camera off.
Yeah. But definitely we
call me
we
bougie,
have
but
two
I actually like
different
a little bit
ideas
of
about
smoked salt on potatoes.
mashed
Just
potatoes.
smoked salt.
I'm using a smoked salt in that potato, in the mashed
And then
potatoes
just
there.
simple.
Now, if I hadn't planned on serving mine with gravy, I would put garlic in it too.
Nothing
So it
crazy.
would have been cheesy garlic potatoes.
No real frills.
Right.
My only real thing that I do that's different than most people is I use a smoked salt in there. It adds a nice extra little kind of complexity to the flavor of the potato. But that's
Really
it.
does. Wakes them up, dude.
That
Smoked
Well,
salt
is my mashed
crazy.
potato.
Crazy
I won't-
mashed potatoes.
I won't say that's a chowder, but
Consistency is
it's
just what you
kissing
want.
cousins with it.
Nice and thick. No chunks to speak of. Mashed potatoes. Next, we come over here.
Well, at least they weren't
And
instant.
we've got our cube
At least they're what?
At least they
our
weren't
cube steak
instant
needs
potatoes.
seasoning.
No.
Now we have our.
They
we're
weren't
now
much
over here
harder
with
than
our cube
instant
steak.
potatoes, though.
And
And
what
and
we're
that's
gonna do
why
So
That's crap.
make our complex.
Accidentally clicked something that I shouldn't have there. Sorry, guys. There we go. I was gonna say that's why I don't have a lot of patience for people using instant potatoes, because you saw how quick and easy that was.
Exactly.
And they tasted way better than instant potatoes ever would.
Oh, of course.
That's
The same reason I make real mashed potatoes.
onion powder.
And I did it all in
cumin.
one pot, just like you would have liked to.
This is
I didn't even have a
paprika.
bowl. I served them out of that pan.
And same thing in our flour mix.
Right. Now the thing about seasoning your dredge,
We grab a fork.
if you use the same flour to make the gravy, you gotta be a
Just kinda
little bit
mix it
careful
up.
what you season with.
I didn't use the same.
Ah. Or as I did, whenever possible.
Get these flipped. Season the backside.
You didn't dry grind them overnight?
No, I didn't.
That's our
Okay.
cumin, onion powder.
I find it
Paprika.
to me it doesn't really help much with.
Notice
with,
I'm not putting any garlic powder in here.
with chicken fried steak.
That's
I don't
because
notice
there's going
much
to be
difference.
a decent amount of garlic
It
powder,
always helps.
I can't taste the
or even
difference. I
fresh
don't care to
garlic
do it.
potentially, in our gravy that we're going to make. So we're going to get those seasonings pressed in, flipped, and then right into the flour. All right, so since the last clip here, all I've done is made an egg wash, an egg and milk wash,
Right.
and seasoned it up. Again, same seasoning blends. And I don't personally really use any kind of measuring. I kind of just do what feels right. So,
Right.
all right, just getting these chicken fried steaks into the oil.
So a double dredge, but a single baptism.
And the reason you
Correct.
roll them in there slow like that is so that
Oh,
they
deep fried.
don't stick together.
Yep.
Whereas to me, a chicken fried steak is pan fried.
Meanwhile, over here, we're gonna go ahead.
See how much
and
thicker
get
the potatoes are in that pan now?
our
They're just sitting over there.
Yeah,
gravy
okay.
started.
I don't think I'd use the word thick to describe them, though.
With some butter.
Well, I mean, your potatoes were basically able to stand up. So, you know, there is
Yeah,
maybe a matter of taste difference there, but
yeah, exactly. It's personal preference.
yeah. I wouldn't say I like a loose mashed potato. I like about a medium mashed potato. Where yours are
Yeah.
extra, extra, extra thick.
Yeah, those were.
Yeah.
I personally
Alright,
like
so
mine
now
a little bit
We got our
less
buttermilk
stiff
in
than
there.
those, but
We're just gonna get some flour going.
yeah, let's see this roux.
Get that nice and folded in.
Okay, reasonably thick roux.
Yep.
And when I make gravy for chicken fried steak, what I do is I do kind of a half and half thing, where I use some beef broth first, and then I finish with milk.
So that's how I replace
Yeah.
the flavor that I lose by not having the drippings.
Because I want that creaminess,
Yeah,
but I also want that beefy flavor.
And remember, you can keep reducing liquid, so I can compact the
Right.
the flavor of the beef
right, the beef broth.
of the beef broth, and then still get the same amount of creaminess, which is what I did.
Oh, by the way, I should have pointed out that I did use the 50% less sodium beef broth.
I did not.
Well, it's probably a good thing because there's a shitload of salt in the normal packaged broth.
That's true. There is.
And that way it can salt the taste. And also keep in mind they use that Montreal steak seasoning that already has a ton of sodium in it.
Yeah. Whereas I don't use very many
You see
blends.
it now as the flour kind of cooked through. It's important, very important to keep gravy moving.
Yep.
That's how you end up with no lumps in your gravy.
Now, whereas I think of a
If you've ever bitten into a lump of flour when eating something that had gravy on it, you can tell me it's not pleasant.
So we're still gonna get the creaminess here. Now we're adding the milk.
It's delicate.
Right. Exactly. And as always, for both of us, no
You add too
measuring
much too
cups.
fast, it curdles.
No.
Or splits.
One of the things that drives me nuts is when I see someone just dump a cup of milk into their hot pan. Gravy instantly splits, and then they got to work to try to bring it back together.
Yeah.
You add it a splash at a time until it's right. That's what you do. That's how you make gravy, guys.
And worse is if they use cream or buttermilk.
Yeah, because then it splits like that. Doesn't make those are both fine to use in gravy. You just don't want to pour them in real fast like that. You need to add a little bit at a time, just a little bit at a time.
Yeah, basically you want to use just straight whole milk.
Right.
Not cream or half and half, not 2% milk, whole milk. That's what makes good gravy.
That's a fact.
Add
Although I
more.
am using 2% in this
And
video.
that's just a factor in
Wow.
That's what I had on hand.
process. Because we're going to let this cook for a minute here. While we season and check on our...
Don't you worry. You saw how much butter I put in there. There's plenty of fat.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
other
it.
things. Let's check on our chicken fried steaks now. And they are definitely finished.
Alice will peek over the top in a second.
And they look pretty good.
Oh, yeah, they did. Now, one thing you didn't put in your
Let
dredge,
those
that
hang
had
in the
you put
basket
in
for a
mind
minute
for
here.
chicken fried
We'll get our
steak,
broccoli finished off.
is
For the
baking powder.
Yeah.
broccoli,
So the way I combat the loss of crunchiness that I get from letting them hang in the basket like that is that I flash them again a couple seconds before I plate them.
Ah,
Drop them back in the grease for like 10, 15 seconds, and then plate them, and that makes them extra crispy.
well, I find that the
I'm
baking
using
powder
a
also
basket
has a
steamer.
lot of crispy
Just
to
because
it.
it's the kind
It
of
does.
steamer I have on hand. There's nothing special about it.
Now, have you noticed anything wrong with that gravy yet?
To accomplish this, I'm using a basket.
It looks to be a little bit thick, but not
There's
much.
There's something decidedly wrong about it right now.
I'm looking and I'm not seeing. If I'd been there stirring it, I'd probably pick up on it.
So the thing that's wrong with that gravy right now is that I'm sure you'll notice it as soon as I say it. There's nothing in that gravy. There's no specks of pepper.
Right.
It's perfectly clear. There's no anything in it. It's not been seasoned yet.
Right.
Which I do fix
Right.
before the video's over. But
Okay.
still.
Well, that and it's great. That was the reason that I started making just a white country gravy or a dark brown gravy, and not using beef broth there in the gravy for chicken fried steak. Because to be honest, for Val, it's not visually appealing.
I don't care about the color, and neither does Alice. We care about how it tastes, and this is the best tasting gravy.
Well, you eat with your eyes.
Well, yeah, but once
since
it's in
you
your
and
mouth-
since you and Alice agree, it's not a problem. For
Yeah.
me, I have to cook to please Val.
yeah.
While we have this on the steamer here, we got a broccoli here on the steamer.
Oh, broccoli. Interesting choice of
We're gonna
veggie
crank that up.
for
What
a
we did
chicken
off
fried
screen there was
steak.
just added some water in the bottom of this wok. Steamer here. And while that runs, we're just gonna season up our gravy. Right now our gravy's looking awfully bland. We're gonna get some pepper in here. Little cumin. Not much.
I was going to say, cumin's definitely
Paprika.
optional for a white gravy.
Onion powder.
Paprika and not cayenne. Okay.
Salt. And we're gonna get
Did
some
you
chili
taste that
powder.
before adding the salt?
Nope, but I've used that. What it is that I've used that brand of broth before, so I knew how much salt I needed to add to it to make it right. And then notice what I added at the very end.
Chili powder.
Chili powder. What's chili powder?
I didn't catch which one.
What is chili powder?
Oh,
it's garlic and cayenne.
Yeah.
It's garlic and cayenne. So I get my garlic and cayenne right there.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
And that's a smoked
And we're just going to
paprika.
turn our heat back on just a little bit. And we're just going to get all these seasonings kind of mixed in.
I'm sure you can tell off camera I added some more liquid there.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot lighter than it was.
Well, I kept adding liquid as it was cooking. I didn't
Cook
film
off for a
every
couple
second of it
minutes.
cooking.
Yeah,
Let those
exactly.
seasonings kind of combined a little bit. We may add a little bit more.
Gravy is something that you guys have to feel. Gravy
Yeah.
gravy is a feel. The truth is that gravy is one of those few things you can either make gravy or you can't make gravy.
Gravy is a journey.
Gravy is art.
It's a journey.
Yes. If you can't inherently make gravy, it takes you forever to learn it.
I would say forever, but once you get it right the first time, it's like riding a bicycle.
Yep. I've had some really bad gravies. My gravy experience was really fast. I learned how to make gravy like I inherently understood it right away. Like it was never a problem. But I have been in some homes and had some meals at people's homes where, man, that gravy was fucking rough. I was like, oh, you know, just, whew.
No, Val and Randy both, they always reach for the gravy packets and do it that way. They cheat.
Oh.
Both of them are just notorious for using boxed potatoes, instant potatoes, and the packet gravy.
Okay.
Hey, I'm not cooking those nights, so I can't complain.
More butter,
Fair enough.
but probably not. I like this. It's nice and silky right now, so we're going to let it ride.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so it's time to plate.
Now, at this point, those mashed potatoes have been sitting in a hot environment for about half an hour, on and off the heat,
These up.
staying hot. And you'll see when I plate them up
First things first.
that they're not
We're gonna
loose.
get the camera person's plate done first. Some mashed potatoes.
That's pretty loose. I'm sorry, Sean.
That's not
That's
a loose
loose.
mashed potato. That is an average
guys.
thickness mashed
You
potato.
can't see it, but she is.
Okay. It's not chowder, but like I said, it's kissing cousins to it.
You're insane.
I'm just gonna
A chowder
Nice
is
little
thick,
gravy well.
but like it doesn't.
put our gravy in.
A chowder is still a soup. It doesn't hold a shape. That mashed potato is clearly holding a shape.
Yeah.
It's not runny.
Let's get
Okay.
some broccoli. We're gonna grab her a couple of heads of this broccoli.
No, everyone has got their own preference on mashed potatoes. I mean, I'm not going to argue on that with you at all.
Rolls.
Yeah. Chowder. That's an insult, though.
Do
The
this
chowder
one
thing is an
soggy.
insult.
We get just a little bit of gravy on top of the chicken fried steak. That is my
Looks
chicken
good.
fried steak, guys. Jim, I'll see you top that.
Oh, I can top that chicken fried steak. You didn't show me a fork test on it.
Oh, I mean, it was nice and tender. It cut with no problem.
Well, it should be. No, it looks tasty, no doubt about it.
Although we did use fork and knife because it's so crunchy on the outside. But you could cut it with a fork if you wanted to.
Right.
Because it had such a nice, crispy, crunchy exterior. You know, it was kind of a pain to cut with a fork. but the meat itself was tender enough to do so pretty easily.
Well, I'll tell you what, next time we get together, either if I visit you out there or you by some chance get here to Vegas, we'll do chicken fried steak and we'll compromise. I'll let you make the potatoes, but I'll do the steaks and gravy.
I can eat a stiff potato. That's fine.
No,
It's
I think I can top your chicken fried steak. That's something I make a lot.
It's something I make pretty regularly too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, guys, those are our entries for this week. Definitely not as much of a runaway in my favor as it usually is. Those Salisbury steaks that he made look pretty good. They did.
Yeah. As for judging country fried or chicken fried steak, we actually need to get like 2 or 3 Texans in the crowd to make the judgment call. I'm serious.
I think they'll agree that my technique on the country fried steak was pretty spot on.
Oh, are you in for a surprise? Okay.
It was seasoned well. It was fried well.
Yeah.
It was battered well, or breaded well. Not battered. It was breaded well.
Yep. On that note, of course, next week, folks, we've already decided Sean wants to throw another curveball at me, and I use that term deliberately. He wants us to do the hot dog that our hometowns are known for, that our regions are known for.
Hot dog or sausage. So, for instance, if he has a Sonoma dog or a Dodger dog or whatever it is, I'm not sure exactly. He's from LA.
Yeah, and we don't really have any regional food.
By the way, you've lived in Vegas long enough that I'll allow Vegas entries as well, if there's a specific Vegas one you want to use.
Oh, Vegas has no native food whatsoever.
That's fair. Also, I mean, guys, let's keep it real. You know, Jim's old, so he can. He also lived in Texas long enough to use Texas as well. So you can have Texas as well. So you can draw from Texas or LA or Las Vegas.
Well, I'm going to go with that Dodger ball. I mean, that seems to be the right one to go with.
Okay. And for me, as you guys know, I'm from Cleveland, so you'll definitely get a Polish boy, potentially a Polish girl. That might happen. Polish girl might happen. And only the real locals know what a Polish girl is.
I've never heard of it, that's for sure.
So, all right, guys. Well, hopefully we'll see you guys in the next one. If you did enjoy this, like, subscribe if you want to see more. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss anything. And hopefully we'll see you guys in the next one. Later.
Hasta.